So there is a tax bill. They call it the Big Beautiful Bill, as the president calls it. What would it accomplish? Here's what they are saying is going to be accomplished in this. The average income people, if that is people making between $30,000 and $80,000 per year, would pay about 15% less in taxes in 2027. This is a report that was done by a nonpartisan joint committee on taxation. So people that make more than $1 million a year would see a decrease in their taxes of about 8.5%, 8.6% decline. However, it does not take into account any of the likely expansion of a deduction for state and local taxes. That's the SALT that they are negotiating. The House is looking at what that is going to cost. And so there's some room in the SALT because a lot of this, they're saying it's going to cost less than they thought it was going to cost. So they may have some room there in this. Republicans scoffed, pointing to provisions in their plan that would expand the child tax credit and standard deductions while creating new breaks for tips, overtime pay, seniors, and car loan interest. The Republicans said, do you think billionaires are financing their cars? Do you really think Elon Musk is working for tips? I've watched the roles in Washington, D.C. reverse numbers of times in my life. I grew up in a different place. But when I was very, very young, I had kind of a classic middle American upbringing. Was born in Northeast Ohio, lived in the Midwest. My father worked for a trucking company. My uncles were Teamsters. My grandfather was a retired mechanic. All of our family was very close, very tight-knit with my cousins. You know, that classic upbringing that you would want. And it's interesting because my family, and we didn't talk politics, but my family kind of leaned Democrat. My uncles were Teamsters. And so, oddly enough, we moved in the late 1970s. We moved to Southwest Florida. My parents and I, we moved there with my brothers. And my life changed, and I grew up in a different place. But I kept in touch with my cousins over the years, through online. And every single one of my cousins have become what's considered to be a conservative Republican. So how we viewed the world and what we thought the right thing was doesn't seem to have changed for me. The parties have sure changed. If you look at the way we view immigration, if you go back 20 years on immigration, it was Bill Clinton, and it was Dianne Feinstein, and it was Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, and Barack Obama were the border hawks. You just go back, just however many years it was when President Obama was president, and he called himself the deportation president. Look how the roles have reversed. And now the Republicans are mean and evil and separating families. And isn't it fascinating that now you've got a Republican president? And if you look in the way we've seen conservatism in the past, it is not exactly like you look at the classic Republican Party. You're talking about lowering drug prices by an executive order and truly manhandling the big pharma and telling them we're most favored nations. We will not pay any more than what you're charging. The lowest country is what we're going to pay. If you look at some of those decisions, and if you look at the idea now of a Republican president saying no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on your Social Security payments to older Americans, retired Americans. And you've got the Democrats saying it's a bad idea. It's the Democrats that have been pro-union. If you go and look at the disparity in almost every single union that exists, from the school union, the teachers' unions, to the auto workers, to the steel workers, to the carpenters. Now, George W. Bush got the endorsement of the carpenters' union in 2004. I was there for the announcement. But largely, Democrats have enjoyed the huge financial backing, maybe not of union membership, but certainly of union leadership. This, to me, when you look at this, is this about right and left? Is it about common sense? But if you're going to get a 15% tax cut to working class Americans. How do you argue with it? How do you look at someone, and I maybe it's because I grew up working in that industry. I worked in the service industry. Maybe that's where this comes from. Even at a young age, I could recognize what was happening. There were a lot of single parents, mostly single mothers, working in the service industry, bartenders, waitresses, hostesses. And the reason why they did it was you could make decent money. You went home every night with cash because you were making tips. And you could adjust your schedule around your children. And you know, it's a flexible schedule. You could trade shifts with people if you needed to, if your kids had something. It was a way for a single mother to make the money she needed to keep a roof over her head and her children's head. But it's hard work. It's thankless work many times, because many times when you and I go to a restaurant, we probably treat the wait staff and everybody else with respect because they do a great job and they take good care of us. There are others that want you to know you're the help, and they treat you like the help. So it's a thankless job at times, and it's long hours, and you're on your feet, and you're exhausted, and you smell like food. It can be a hard job. Can you imagine the benefit to those people if they don't have to pay taxes on any of their tips? That is life-changing in a way. You know, for me, I watch gas prices fluctuate. When gas prices go through the roof, it's an annoyance to me. It doesn't change my travel schedule. It doesn't change where I drive or how far I'm willing to drive. It doesn't change anything other than I'm thinking, I can't believe these high gas prices. For some families, it alters everything. So when gas prices go down, it's like a tax break. These are the families we're talking about. You've got a couple that's starting out, they want to buy a house or they want to start a family or whatever it is, and you say to them, you're not going to have to pay taxes on your overtime. Now when the boss asks you to work overtime and you are taking time away from your family, but you are able to put that money away faster so that you can do whatever it is you're trying to do. I just don't know how we argue with it. And if this is going to work that way, let's hope they get something done.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch and listen to the new season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.